still, well, we have until.
Welcome to the May 14th school board meeting. President Quigley is unavailable. He is in Springfield, so I will be filling in and not handling this nearly as well as he does. It is much harder than it looks. Can we get a stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Member Venegas. We will have the reading of the mission statement by Member Campbell.
Our mission is to ensure that all students are prepared for college and a successful life, academically, socially, and emotionally, as well as equipped with the necessary tools to have options and make decisions about their long-term goals. This will be accomplished by believing and working toward all students learning through rigorous curriculum and meaningful, effective instruction, consequently demonstrating mastery on high-quality assessments with all stakeholders being held accountable throughout the process.
Thank you, Member Campbell. Dr. Mitchum, agenda approval and approval of agenda revisions, please.
Mr. President, I'd like to ask the board to approve the agenda as presented.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Member Campbell, second by Member Bull. Voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Treasurer's report, Mr. Grisafi. Dr. Grisafi, not yet, right?
The Treasurer's report for April 2002 contains the usual monthly reports along with the interim obligation payments for April totaling $3,314,840.20 for your consideration and action.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Member Venegas?
Yes.
Member Hanson?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Curran?
Yes.
Secretary Bull?
Yes.
Vice President Gugis?
Yes.
Treasurer's Action Report 5.2 is the schedule of bills for May 2012 totaling $2,219,748.71 for your consideration and action.
Motion.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Seeing none, roll call vote.
Member Venegas?
Yes.
Member Hanson?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Curran?
Yes.
Secretary Bull?
Yes.
Vice President Gugis?
Yes.
Treasurer's Report 5.3, 5.4, and 5.5 are all information reports only. If you have any questions, be happy to answer them at this time. They include the summary of investments, the state funding update, as well as all the school's trust activity accounts.
So moved.
We don't,
It's
it's just information.
Oh.
State funding update?
Sure. We remain about 1 quarter behind. What that means is $4,743,000 representing our mandated categorical payments, primarily in the area of special education as well as transportation. Also some state lunch program money that is behind actually 3 months. So we're hoping to get at least one additional categorical payment before June, but with the state's precarious financial situation, I think we'll be lucky to receive an additional MCAT payment before year's end.
I would be remiss if I didn't make some comments on behalf of President Quigley. The state owes us a lot of money. I will summarize his normal comments on that.
Most likely that number will double in June.
All schools trust account activity? Nothing on that? I got that on the agenda here. Okay. Dr. Mitchell, consent agenda items, please.
Mr. President, I would like to ask the board to approve consent agenda items 6.1 through 6.4, board meeting minutes, executive session meeting minutes, gifts for Jamie McGee Elementary School and Bolingbrook High School, as well as the STEP program, amendments to the minutes for board meeting dated August 23rd, 2010, and ratification of action items 4055, 4056, and 4057.
I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Member Venegas,
Yes.
Member Hanson,
Yes.
Member Campbell,
Yes.
Member Curran,
Yes.
Secretary Bull,
Yes.
Vice President Gugis.
Yes. All right, our favorite part of the agenda, student and staff recognition. At the end of the student staff recognition, we have a lot of folks out there. We're glad to see you, but you may leave. Do not feel entitled to have to stay for the rest of this. You're more than welcome, but do not feel that you have to. We will start with the pillars.
Okay, first up would be Bolingbrook High School, represented by Assistant Principal Paula Bodziak.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Members of the board, senior leadership, and audience members. It is my pleasure to recognize Sherry Muttweiler as a pillar of Valley View. Sherry began her career in Valley View at Oakview Elementary in 1991 and joined the Bolingbrook High School family in 1996 as a member of our maintenance department. Sherry is part of a team that keeps our 600,000 square foot building immaculate. She is one of the first staff members in the building each day and ensure the building is open and ready for staff and students. She's always willing to offer a helping hand to anyone in need. She takes pride in Bolingbrook High School and is an asset to both our building and our district. She is truly a pillar of Valley View, and we would like to thank her for her continued support and commitment to our staff and our students.
Next, I'd like to introduce Mr. Mark Stang, the principal of Woodview Elementary School.
Good evening, school board, Dr. Mitchen, senior leadership, and community members. Woodview Elementary School is proud to recognize Mrs. Patricia Norton as our recipient of the Pillars of Valley View Award. Mrs. Norton has been the professional secretary at Woodview since 1985 and a Valley View employee since 1981. Mrs. Norton is retiring next month after 27 years of service to our community. Mrs. Norton exemplifies excellence in all she does, down to every detail. She has been the friendly voice and smile that greets every Woodview visitor, students, parents, and staff. We thank her for being a true pillar of Valley View and wish her well in her retirement. Thank you.
Next, I'd like to introduce Mrs. Laura Noon, the principal of Beverly Scoff Elementary School.
Good evening, members of the board, Dr. Mitchum, and community members. Mrs. Lockard and I are pleased to introduce Mr. Darren Kroll, and Mrs. Mary Anderson as SCOF's Pillars of Valley View. Mr. Kroll is our LMC teacher, and Mrs. Anderson is our LMC paraprofessional. Both of these amazing staff members continually go above and beyond at SCOF. They have worked diligently to create not only a seamlessly run library that is inviting to our students and family and staff, but a place that is truly the heart of our school. Both Mr. Kroll and Mrs. Anderson assist us with fluency interventions in our yearbook club. They are patient, understanding, and thoughtful individuals. It is a pleasure to recognize both Mr. Kroll and Mrs. Anderson as our Pillars of Valley View.
Does your family want to come up?
Finally, I'd like to introduce Mrs. Carmen Killingsworth, the principal of Pioneer Elementary School.
Good evening, board members, senior leadership, and Valley View school community. It is with great pleasure that we acknowledge the exceptional educational expertise of Barb Burba. Mrs. Burba has been with Valley View since 1998. In previous years, she has worked as a special education teacher at Independence, Sauk, and R.C. Hill. She has been at Pioneer since its opening in 2000. Mrs. Burba takes initiative to improve the academic progress of all students in addition to the time and dedication she provides for students with an IEP. Mrs. Burba is also an active and contributing member of our Universal Leadership Team. She volunteers on several committees within our school community. Mrs. Burba uses best practices, current research-based, and a mixture of the two strategies to meet the specific needs of our students. Mrs. Burba is an exceptional educator, a loyal Timberwolf, and now a pillar of Valley View. Congratulations, Mrs. Burba.
Next, I'd like to introduce Mrs. Christy Vay, who will help us present the Valley View School District Middle School Math Contest Champions.
Good evening. We're going to have our representatives from our 4 middle schools who had contestants win come on up so they can hand out their certificates to their students. Our first award winner from Jane Addams Middle School, Carlos Santos, won 8th grade. From Humphrey Middle School, the 7th grade team competition won 1st place, Christian Ball, Christy Parsasek, Megan Wilson, and Andrew Fenor.
Can you superstars make a circle up here and we'll all shake your hand. It'll be our honor.
Thank you. From Martinez Middle School, 1st grade algebra contest, Alameen Kamara. From Brooks Middle School, our 1st place contest winner for 6th grade, Peyton Schaefer. Our first place 7th grade winner from Brooks Middle School, Giselle Cruz. Our algebra team competition, first place from Brooks Middle School, Rohit Banerjee, Jeremy Karavich, Presto Scott, JC D. Domenico, and Jenny Hernandez. Our 6th grade team competition for first place from Brooks Middle School, Madison Mack, Arthur Taylor, Azra Wazir, Peyton Schaefer, and Hannah Smith. And our 8th grade team, first place from Brooks Middle School, Gabby Gentile, Ashby Martin, Zach Fassi, Jordan Taylor, and Kurt Ederle. Thank you.
Next, I'd like to introduce Mrs. Tricia Rollerson from Lukanzik Middle School. She's here to present an award for the IESA State Bowling Finals qualifiers.
Good evening, members of the board, senior leadership, and Dr. Mitchum, along with all of our community members. On March 23rd and 24th, our 7th grader, Jacob Hubbs, represented Lukanzik Middle School in the IESA State Bowling Tournament. Out of 144 competitors, Jacob placed 7th in state. He bowled a total score of 1,931 from 10 games bowled. It is with great pleasure that I introduce to you Jacob Hubbs.
Come on down, Jacob.
Finally, I'd like to introduce again Mrs. Paula Bodziak, the assistant principal from Bolingbrook High School, who will introduce students and their coaches and sponsors.
Good evening again. At this time, I'd like to introduce Robert Brost, our boys basketball coach.
Dr. Mitchum, members of the board, and members of the community, it's my pleasure to recognize Ben Moore and his achievement on being named All-State by the Illinois Basketball Coaches Association. Ben is the second player in the last 4 years to be named All-State from Bolingbrook High School. Ben averaged 17 points, 9 rebounds, and 5 blocks per game. Had a triple-double against Springfield Lanphier. Currently has 8 Division I scholarship offers. And the best part of all of this is that he is only a junior. So that means he will be back next year. And on top of all that, has a 3.0 grade point average and just got a 25 on his ACT. Ben Moore.
Next, I'd like to introduce Sebastian Capalla, a career and tech ed teacher at Bolingbrook High School.
Members of the board, senior leadership, and members of the audience. I'd like to introduce 3 teams to you tonight, which I'm very proud of. The first team is the Illinois Drafting Educators Association state qualifier teams. Not everybody showed up, but I do have a few students here. Mark Tesoro, Tomoko Shibata, Kyle Engelman, Gustavo Dominguez, which placed 3rd in his division in state, Edwin Jaramello, Mark Mateusz Kroczyk, and Christopher Brennan. My next team is the Mock Firms Home Residential Design, and that team that qualified for state is John Herda, John Altimus, Mark Tesoro, Kevin Polly, and Tomoko Shibata. And my final division is the Skyscraper Design Competition for Mock Firms, and the team is Brent Burkett, Kyle Engelman, Adam Froelich, Dominic Kraus, Booker Teckenbacher, and this particular team placed second in engineering design of their skyscraper and second in sustainable design.
Now I'd like to introduce Julie Ott, the Mathlete head coach at Bolingbrook High School.
Good evening. I've been coaching our Bolingbrook math team for the past 8 years. Many of those years, unfortunately, we did not have any students qualify to the state finals at University of Illinois. Last year and the year before, we had 1 student each year. This year, I'm very proud to announce we had 9 students qualify for state. So it's an amazing accomplishment. We had 2 freshmen qualify for state finals, Danny Mangala, come on up Danny, and Olamide Olatunde. We had 2 sophomores qualify for state this year, Brian Paro and Billy Staub. And we had 4 juniors. 2 of them are here tonight, Andrew Limthong Baratin and Jihad Yagi. Congratulations. And we had 3 more students who are unable to join us tonight, but I'd like to say their names anyhow. Sandeep Bharadwaj. Sandeep's a junior. He's the one who qualified last year and the year before. So as a junior, he's gone to state 3 times. Not sure why he's not here tonight. Give him a hard time tomorrow in class. Another one who is not here tonight is Neka Onyajiaika, and a senior, Andrew Nordby. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I believe that's it.
Just quickly, in case you guys didn't all catch that, we had some students that excelled in math, basketball, drafting, home design, bowling, and skyscraper design. So any of you design students, I'm having problems designing this garden in my backyard. We can work something out, extra credit, whatever. That's our students.
We don't do extra.
I know, and I knew you were thinking that, but we'll work something out. I don't think we have any more student and staff recognition. If you folks would like to leave, by all means, feel free to do so now. If you'd like to stay, feel free to do that too. Thanks for coming, everybody. Congratulations. All right, we'll move to liaison reports. Any and all liaison reports. The academic committee met, and tonight the academic committee is in full support of several information items you're going to receive. One on the Children's Progress Adaptive Assessment, which is really filling a gap that we had for our MAP assessment not meeting the needs of all of our students. Benchmark literacy, really some you know, I would say groundbreaking for us in what we do in literacy would not be an exaggeration. MAP for 9th and 10th graders. Again, another positive initiative, the success we've had with MAP and spreading that to our 9th and 10th graders. The academic committee is fully behind these 3 items. Any other liaison reports? All right, audience participation. Any audience participation? Please come up and state your name and where you're from. And you are limited to 5 minutes.
Hello, my name is Kelsey. I am currently a junior at Bolingbrook High School, and I'm here to represent the International Thespian Society Troop 3413 on behalf of the cast, crew, and pit orchestra involved in the spring production of the Tony Award-winning musical A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum. I now call this first thespian court to order. Will the jury please step forward? I know what you're thinking, but Judge, you're filling the jury with theater kids. Isn't that a bit biased? Well, this is thespian court. It doesn't have to be legal. I'm here to plead a case for more recognition for the Bolingbrook High School Theater Department. Let's start with the facts. 32 actors, 24 tech crew members, and 21 musicians, along with 26 parent volunteers, not to mention the staff members who put so much work into making our production possible. The students worked their tails off from early January until the production dates on March 16th, 17th, 18th, 23rd, and 24th. Often, the school district recognizes the academic or athletic accomplishments of its students. The theater department has received no such public recognition by the board. It's really disappointing that only one board member attended and no building or district level administrators were able to attend a performance that was offered on 5 different days spanning 2 weekends. We want you to know that your attendance is important to us. Your support means a great deal, and we would love to see more of you in the audience. It is really disheartening when key members of our community are absent. We understand that you are busy people, but we just asked to receive the same effort that was displayed when a board meeting was rescheduled to support our classmates at a girls' basketball game. We are not asking for our own pep assembly. A football game without a cheering section is still a game, but a play without an audience is just a dress rehearsal. We don't get trophies for state titles. What we do get is applause. Since many of you were unable to attend, I want you to know you missed a hysterical performance. We hope to hear your applause at our next show in the fall, which happens to be a courtroom drama if you haven't picked up all my little hints. Please check your calendars for upcoming dates. If I've made my case well and given you enough prior notice, we'll be seeing you in the auditorium next fall. If I haven't, well then I'll just have to come back and try again at another board meeting. Nothing further.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Kathy Acevedo, and I teach 4th grade at Woodview. It is my understanding that Regina Leedsburg will be presenting a proposal for K-5 literacy program called Benchmark Literacy. As committee members, we can attest to the fact that this group has made a very informed decision, which encompassed thorough research, review, piloting, as well as a site visit. We all stand before you in support of the adoption and implementation of benchmark literacy and hope you will consider this for the students of Valley View.
Good evening. My name is Veronica Sandoval. I'm a 1st grade bilingual teacher at SCOFF, and I would just like to add that I had the opportunity to implement this program in ALSUP, and I was really amazed and surprised at how well students responded to it. It's a good program and provides the resources that teachers need to help our students become independent thinkers and prepare them for the academics that we're requiring for them in the future. Buenas noches, mi nombre es Veronica Sandoval. Sorry, I just got married. Even I mix that up sometimes. Y nada más quería compartir con ustedes que soy la maestra de 1er grado bilingüe en la escuela Beverly Scoff. Yo tuve la oportunidad de implementar este programa en una escuela donde realmente yo pude ver cómo ayudó a las maestras. Era un recurso muy importante para ellas, para ayudar a los niños a prepararse para su vida académica. Y es todo. Gracias. Thank you.
Thank you for your work on that committee, and we appreciate you coming out tonight. Is there any other audience members that would like to speak? Here we go.
Hello, my name is Monica Engel, and I'm a 23-year resident of the village of Romeoville. I was present at the August 16th board meeting where Vice President Gugis was explaining his comment calling our present curriculum a joke. Among other things, Vice President Gugis mentioned that the preschools in the area had a more rigorous curriculum than our kindergarten program. Vice President Gugis stated that we have some great preschool programs in the area, even in Romeoville. I found that comment insulting to the preschool programs in Romeoville and to the residents of our fine village. I'm sure Vice President Gugis did not intend to insult the preschool programs or the residents of Romeoville, but the fact is, you did. So I'm respectfully asking that while you remain on this board, you are more aware of how your comments will be perceived. Thank you.
Sure. I find it really hard to say that I was insulting to the preschools of Romeoville when I said they were better than our kindergarten curriculum. It seems to me that I would be insulting our kindergarten curriculum. If you want to say something to Pastor Suzanne, please come to the mic.
I never know where the appropriate place is to speak, so a couple things. First of all, I want to publicly thank Leroy Brown for hosting Bridging the Gap last week, and I was so disappointed by the people who didn't come out, but I just publicly want to say, Leroy, a job well done. For those of you who don't know, it was on bullying, and I talked to somebody, I won't specify what school, but I talked to a security person at one of our schools about it, and he was just, you know, telling me how prevalent it is. And I know that Michelle Bachnick is going to be bringing something, I think, soon from our team, but I wrote a blog recently about bullying right after that, actually, and I guess what I would say is we can't expect our students to understand how to not bully if we as adults don't represent that in how we conduct ourselves as well. And I guess I would say, as a Romeoville resident, I was offended by what you said, and I think from what I heard Mrs. Ingalls say, it was less about the preschool comment and more about just being aware of what your words are. So I would respectfully ask for that as well. I do have a question about the MAP program, but wasn't sure if I should ask it under that, or would it be
Sure,
more?
you're here. Go ahead.
Okay. I read in the CPAA that we're getting that because the MAP was not bilingual. So if we're thinking about getting the MAP for 9th and 10th grade, does it have to be bilingual? Is that necessary?
No, what we're looking at is the bilingual population K through 2. They're self-contained, and so their primary language is immersed in Spanish.
Okay.
And so that's why we wanted to make sure that we adopted this piece. But then third on, English-speaking population, so the MAP would be more than adequate to meet their needs.
Okay. And then my second question is, my son is in 6th grade, and he took the MAP, and I asked him actually before I came here, because I've told his principal there's a real disconnect. He got a score that's actually higher than what the district goal was. He got higher than that, but he's getting a C in that. I don't want to say what it is because I don't want to identify a teacher, but anyway, he's getting a C in the course that he overscored on the MAP. And I'm just concerned about that disconnect, and so my question that I wrote down is, how is the MAP, and I asked my son, are you being taught any differently, like since you got that data back, are you being taught any differently, you know, because he was sort of above it or whatever, and I don't know, he didn't really know, but anyway, I guess my question as a parent, what do those MAP things do for our kids? What do the assessments do for our kids, other than telling them you scored this, this, or this? I know it assesses so the teachers can see, and I did read your document online, so what does it do for our kids?
Well, it actually helps teachers to understand exactly where the strengths and target areas are for children. So underneath mathematics, say for instance, if there's number sense, it actually helps a teacher to identify what areas to target for that child. So with year one of Valley View's implementation of MAP, this is a year in which we're building capacity with our teachers and helping them to understand how to interpret that data and actually how to disaggregate the information. We are doing an end of the year reflection for our teachers, looking at those sub areas underneath math and reading and really helping them to identify how to more appropriately target instruction to meet those students' needs. So you may be seeing some disconnects because, again, this is year one. This is about building capacity, but the goal is to make sure that in year two, there's more awareness and more training offered to our teachers in order to help them to differentiate. And so you should see more alignment between their test scores, classwork, homework, and that diagnostic tool.
Okay, it's about differentiation, right?
Correct.
Okay, that's what I thought. That's why I was confused, because I'm not sensing that, but it makes sense if it's the first year. So as we move this then on into 9th and 10th grade, will there be a year of assimilation for them, or are we going to try to take what we've learned from the middle school and maybe be 6 months ahead of where they, do you know what I mean?
You know what, we're following that same model that we rolled out K-8, and so we're really looking at making sure that 9th and 10th year teachers are able to have that learning curve as well, because they have now currently in place, there are just teacher-made assessments and benchmark assessments in the high school levels. And so right now with this diagnostic tool, this is new for them. And so the training has to be built in. And so they will have that time to catch up, and then they'll be on a different cycle. So they'll be on year one next year, and subsequent year they'll be along the same lines as K-8.
So by the time, so if it starts in the fall this year, it won't really affect the 9th graders until the year after that. Is that right?
We'll have several data points
in terms of differentiation, I mean.
Correct.
Okay.
Well, the training will take place, and I commend the teachers because they do work very hard, very actively to start using that data right away. But it does take everyone has varying degrees of a learning curve, and so we really want to make sure that we give our staff time to acclimate to that data.
And I want you to know I did talk to the teacher. I've also talked to the principal, but I did talk to the teacher because I was seeing such a huge disconnect at the winter map one, and then the spring one was even more, so I'm not really sure what's going on there, but it is a concern to me that it would be so distinctly different. And then just the last thing I wanted to say, I know we hear this every board meeting, and I guess I'm kind of tired of hearing the complaints about the lack of funding from the state. We know that's a fact. We get it. You don't have to say it every time. And as a taxpayer and a stakeholder in that way, that's getting real old, especially when I roll out the agenda and I see all the money that's being spent. And I'm not saying I'm against what we're buying, but I'd really like to stop hearing how bad the state is. We all know it, and we don't need to hear it every board meeting. Thanks for listening.
Just one comment. I'm not going to not be honest about the condition in which our curriculum in both math and reading was in. I mean, for too long, this district has put a subpar curriculum out there, a curriculum that's a joke to our students, and then they didn't get the results, and they didn't have the options that they wanted to live their life the way they wanted to do that. And we're not going to do that anymore. And we're spending $1 million on math, we're spending a ton of money on reading, because we have to replace that subpar curriculum, a curriculum that we could not find in other school districts nearby. I know we care that much about our kids in this district, and we're going to put our money and our time to have that kind of curriculum present. And so if that means removing older curriculum that was a joke, then that's what we're going to do. And if we can't continue to hide and act like our results aren't our results. We're not happy with our results. We're not putting our kids in the best position to succeed. And that's why we're doing all this. That's the whole purpose of this, is to give our kids the best chance to succeed. So if it steps on people's toes that I don't think much of the prior administration, that I don't think much of our prior curriculum, then it steps on the toes. But the results speak for themselves. So if our results haven't stepped on our own toes, then I ask, what's wrong with us? Why do we accept results that other communities don't accept? Do we think less of our children? I don't.
Vice President Gugis, I appreciate some of your remarks, but what I'm hearing our community is saying is that we're all on this team together to move forth in the things that we have done, but it also the way we say things and to offend each other. We're not talking about that. What I hear the community is saying is that they don't want to hear some of these comments that puts anybody down, whether it was the previous administration, whether it's the current administration or the future administration that we're going to have, because we're all human and we all sin against God and each other, and we ask for forgiveness. We come together, we work together, and we move forward. That's what I hear the community is saying. And the less of, we always say, you know, I work at the preschool, you know, put it in a positive song. Instead of telling my kids, don't run, I say use your walking feet. So we can still use those same type of things, and that's all that I hear. And I am agree with you that yes, our children all can learn, and not even all my adopted kids that I've got, that they've got those same potentials, and everybody should be on board for that. And I can stay with you on some of those statements, and then if you have any mindset other than all our kids can, yes, then you need to find you another place of employment. I agree with you that, but some of the things we still need to encourage one another. Everybody want to hear something good sometimes, and that's what I hear the community say.
Can't be all that bad if there are 28 eighth graders at Brooks Middle School taking sophomore honors geometry.
But there's 28. I think you make the point right there. How many eighth graders are at Brooks Middle School?
How did they excel?
But there's 28. I would say they excel despite what we've done, not because of what we've done. They have great parents that have well prepared them, and it's 28 out of, what do we have at Brooks Middle School? How many eighth graders?
Well, there's a bunch of them taking algebra.
Right, and that's where the curriculum has fell down, because it shouldn't be 28. It should be 128. It should be 150 kids that are able to take those courses. You know, just the few that get by on the strength that they came well prepared from their parents is not good enough. And I'm firm on that, and I think a big portion of our community is firm on that the results we're getting are not good enough, and that we're not doing the right things for our kids. Some may disagree, but accountability is not always fun. And if our results don't get better, the community should hold us, the 7 of us, accountable. If our results don't get better, we should hold Dr. Mitchum accountable. And just the get along, go along is not doing our kids any justice. All right. Student due process, Dr. Mitchum.
Mr. Gugis, I ask that the board approve student due process cases A through D as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call. Discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Member Venegas?
Yes.
Member Hanson?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Curran?
Yes.
Secretary Bull?
Yes.
Vice President Gugis?
Yes. Dr. Mitchell.
Action report 10.2, I ask that the board approve the meeting schedule as presented for the 2012-2013 school year. And that is the Board of Education meeting schedule.
So moved.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Member Venegas?
Yes.
Member Hanson?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Curran?
Yes.
Secretary Bull?
Yes.
Vice President Gugis?
Yes. Action reports, Sister Superintendent Smith.
On behalf of Rachel Kinder and myself, no action reports for K-5 or 612.
Action reports, Assistant Superintendent Grisafi.
Yes, action report 12.1 this evening is a recommendation for a cleaning service contract award. Several months ago, the district put out a RFP for cleaning services of all of our buildings and facilities. We had 8 companies attend the mandatory pre-bid held on February 15th, 3 of which actually submitted bid proposals. Those bid proposals were evaluated not only on price, but on the details of their business operations, and a point system was awarded thereof, of which is contained in Exhibit B in the packet. I'm happy to report that the low bidder is our current provider, GCA, with a proposal that will save us over $109,000 next year over this year, which is about a 3.3% reduction in our overall cost. We've also incorporated into their bid, or they've incorporated into their bid, a 2% increase in each of the ensuing years. The cost of this cleaning service will be funded, as it always has, through the operations and maintenance budget. As I mentioned before, they are our current provider. They have been our provider for the past 15 years and do an excellent job in servicing and maintaining our buildings. One of the issues that we wanted to verify and double back on was our background checks with this provider. And so we will be conducting the same background check that we mandate for all of our employees. We'll also be requesting and receiving all of the I-9 information that GCA completes as an employer and maintain on file. We'll do this in conjunction with all immigration laws to make sure that we do not run afoul of the rights of those individuals and therefore can keep a clean bill of health going forward. However, if we are come to any information that there's actual or constructive knowledge of unauthorized status of a worker, we can ask to have that worker replaced. In no way, shape, or form do we want anybody working in our buildings on this account who does not have legal work status, employment status here in the United States. And so again, in working with our attorneys, we feel that this is a belt and suspenders approach to doing the background checks all within the legal limits of the law. Therefore, I am recommending that a 3-year contract be awarded to GCA Cleaning Service beginning June 5th of 2012 through the last day of school year 2015. If we are happy again with our services for those 3 years, we would bring back a renewal for 1 year additional terms for up to 2 additional terms. And we do, again, retain the right to cancel this contract for any reason with a 30-day notice.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Question, why did we even start the contract process? What was the reasoning of doing this?
We were at the end of a 5-year, we had a 3-year and then a 2 1-year renewal. So we were at the end of that cycle. So we were at the time to go out to bid.
No, it was going out to bid. It wasn't because of some allegations of inappropriate hiring tactics?
We did have an instance where we had an individual working for GCA that we came to believe did not have legal status. Given the opportunity to provide that evidence was provided, and therefore the status was established. But again, we did have concern that if that was an instance there, how many other instances do we have? And so we tightened up our bid spec to include what it is the attorneys suggested we should.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Member Venegas?
No.
Member Hanson?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Curran?
Yes.
Secretary Bull?
Yes.
Vice President Gugis?
Yes.
Action Report 12.2 is a resolution providing for the issuance not to exceed $10 million in general obligation capital appreciation refunding bonds. This was a renewal, if you will, of the parameters resolution that was presented and approved at our November 14th, 2011 Board of Education meeting, allowing us to take advantage of market rates as they may present themselves to refund several of our outstanding Series 2005 and 2009, as the case was, bonds. We had a 6-month window on that initial parameters resolution. That 6-month window has now closed. The opportunity that we set for ourselves with this target refunding was not met, but we are getting very close with one of the primary bondholders of our outstanding bonds, and so we want to again take advantage of the markets and the thresholds that we set, and therefore we are asking you to reauthorize, if you will, this parameters resolution as presented.
So moved.
Motion. Do I need a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Member Venegas?
Yes.
Member Hanson?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Curran?
Yes.
Secretary Bull?
Yes.
Vice President Gugis?
Yes. All right, action report, Executive Director Hawks.
Thank you, Vice President Gugis. This evening, Action Report 13.1, we're seeking your approval for the Consolidated Action Report for Certified and Classified Personnel. We're bringing the 63 separate items for certified personnel, 37 for classified personnel, 2 for certified administrative personnel, and 3 for classified administrative personnel.
So move.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Member Venegas?
Yes.
Member Hanson?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Curran?
Yes.
Secretary Bull?
Yes.
Vice President Gugis?
Yes.
Within the consolidated action report this evening, we do have an action to hire the new principal for Bolingbrook High School. That will be Mr. Michael White. Mr. White, if you want to go ahead and come up to the podium and greet us. And while he's coming, I'd like to just give a brief introduction for him. He's had over 25 years in education, 13 of those in administration. He's coming to us as a principal at Pioneer High School from Ann Arbor, Michigan, and we want to welcome you.
Thank you. Vice President Gugis, board members, Superintendent Mitchum, Valley View senior leadership and community, I want to share with you that I'm not only honored, but I'm humbled by the fact of being selected for Bolingbrook High School principal. And I share that because of the rigor of the process in which I was hired and found how serious this community is about hiring the right people for this community. I met with over 100 selected stakeholders from around this district through the interview process. I also had over 20 hours of interview time with all the way from groundskeepers to the superintendent of schools to board members. I spent over 2.5 months from the time Ms. Hawks called and asked me if I was interested in interviewing for the process. And I just share with you that this community deserves committed people, and I am committed to this community after my wife and I have spent about 2 days in this community talking to community members, talking to students, talking to department store owners and partners in the communities. We have spent that much time, and all of them are committed to this district. And I will promise you this, that I will be just as committed as all of those that I spoke to today. With that said, I'd like to, first of all, thank my lovely wife, Karen. If you could just stand up real quickly. I've been married to my wife for 28 years. And I want to thank her because of all my goals in servicing students and education. She has been 100% behind me and has allowed me to do those things and will allow me to do those things here in this community. I'd also like to thank Dr. Mitchum, and the reason why is because he is probably one of the most rigorous interviewers I have ever gone through. And I don't falter under pressure much, but he asked me a question and I just could not think through the full interview process. But I appreciate his thoughtfulness in making sure that this community gets a strong person who's willing to put in the time and the commitment to work for you and the students of this community. I also like to thank the board because, again, for the trust that they're putting in me off of the discussions we've had. And I can see already systemically that they believe in their superintendent believes in their administrators, and I want to be a part of this team. And I will work extremely hard for this community to do the right thing as a part of this team. So I want to share with you, thank you. I appreciate the selection, and I certainly can't wait until I get here and hit the ground running. Thank you.
Thank you, Principal White, and I have trouble believing that all your honorable service in the U.S. Army as a drill sergeant, in large part, that Dr. Mitchum was able to shake you.
My father was a full bird colonel in the Army.
So he worked for a living, is what they would say. So we're at the superintendent's information reports. Dr. Mitchum.
I'm all discombobulated now. Okay, first I'd like to have Venus Smith give information on the Children's Progress Adaptive Assessment.
Thank you, Dr. Mitchum, and I'd like to introduce proudly our Director of Data and Assessments for grades 6 through, or K through 12, I'm sorry, Kelly K through 12, who will be presenting children's progress to us tonight for our bilingual population K through 2, and she will introduce the rest of the team who will be doing the presentation with her this evening.
Good evening, Board of Education and community. Tonight I stand before you bringing to you, as you heard from Pastor Suzanne, the need to share our understanding that we are deficient in the area of addressing our K2 bilingual students, specifically with the diagnostic assessment. And so tonight I'm going to be sharing that with you. Before I begin, though, I would like to introduce the team that was part of this process. We have our Director of Bilingual Education, Ricardo Sanchez, and our Assistant Director, Yadi Mata, as well as Michael Ocasio. We also had 3 teachers, several students, and several parents part of this process as well. With that being said, the purpose is to adopt a standardized reading and mathematics formative assessment for our K2 bilingual population, one that supports instruction the way that our measures of academic progress, our MAP assessment, does for our general education population. With that in mind, just some background information to bring to the table here. We have approximately 2,100 students in Valley View who are identified as limited in their English proficiency. Of those 2,100, 800 of those students are in grades K through 2 and are taught primarily in Spanish. Now, this method of instruction is researched as one of the most effective ways to learn to read, write, and communicate proficiently, socially, and academically in English while learning all other core concepts. The Northwest Evaluation Association MAP assessment is offered only in English. So currently, our LEP students, our limited English proficiency students in grades 3 through 8, do take the assessment in that manner. The lack of the version specific to our K2 bilingual students in Spanish prevents us from collecting data that would guide instruction in reading and math for those students and their teachers. Just to give you a glimpse of what we do have at the elementary level, we have an Ames Web assessment that measures fluency. It is given to both our general education and our bilingual students. We have the Fontes and Pinnell F&P assessment that measures reading behavior data, fluency, and comprehension, again given to our general ed and bilingual students. And we also have the MAP assessment, which provides that diagnostic information aligned to the Common Core standards. We do not have that in the bilingual K2 population, hence the need to move forward with an assessment recommendation. We did a lot of research, as you would expect, and very happy to find an assessment that met several of the criteria that we are looking for. We're looking for one that aligned to the Common Core standards. I'm not going to read all this to you, but I just want to highlight a few that stood out in the decision-making process. Ones that provided instructional resources similar to the Descartes continuum in MAP. Ones that provided a score so teachers can use in relationship to working instructionally in their classroom. Ones that provided reports that were teacher-friendly, parent-friendly, and demonstrated growth. And ones that provided analysis of responses to student answers that, again, those responses being adaptive as they went through the assessment. We found only 3 products that met some to most of those requirements. Children's Progress Adaptive Assessment, also known as CPAA, met several of the criteria as you see listed here. We also looked at DORA, which is Let's Go Learning's Diagnostic Online Reading Assessment. That only, however, was a reading assessment. We also looked at Scantron's Performance Series. That only was a math assessment. Now, only individually reading or math, that may not have necessarily meant much if we could have used them collaboratively. However, they did not meet some critical areas for us, which provided some additional reading information. Neither were aligned to Common Core. And so those 2 areas were very specific and standing out, which is why we are recommending the adoption of the Children's Progress Academic Assessment, also known as CPAA, beginning next year as a supplement to the MAP assessment in our general ed population. Again, we have 3 teachers, 3 bilingual teachers, pilot this assessment, 30 students, and their parents. Their parents didn't take the assessment, but what they did was provide us feedback on their parent reports and how that information was useful to them as a parent. Our estimated cost with this assessment is about $12,000, which works itself out to about $15 per student. We have 800 students in the K-2 bilingual program. Currently, we're spending about $160,000 on MAP for all other K-8 students. This was also line budgeted in to our current budget and for next year's budget as well. This cost expenditure provides site licensing, which is unlimited assessments throughout the year for each student, immediate reports for teachers, administrators, and ongoing customer support. Also embedded in that cost is an additional $1,500, which would be specific to professional development for our bilingual teachers. Upon your approval, we would like to formally communicate this with all of our K-2 bilingual teachers. Finalize plans for meeting the technology needs. There are a few, which may include installing software in all 6 of the K-5 bilingual centers. Parents would be informed, very similar to what we had done for MAP, including a brochure and a letter. Professional development will also be provided to all of our K-2 bilingual teachers in August. In the board documents, as well as online, there are several other slides following this one that contain very important information, but not essential to looking at the need and purpose behind this assessment, but additional information provided regarding this Children's Progress Academic Assessment for your reference.
Thank you, Kelly. Any questions?
Great job.
I got to see on the academic committee a presentation on this, and then I got some take-home material to read on this, and definitely appreciate you bringing forward the best for our students, because it's what they deserve, so thank you.
If I also may add, I neglected to share, I was supposed to embed it in NWA, which is the member hosting the MAP assessment, ironically found the need to fill their void as well. And when we came to the conclusion that we would like to proceed forward with the CPAA recommendation, ironically they purchased this organization and this assessment back in March. And so it seemed like seamless. It was affirmation to us for all the work that we had gone through in identifying that this was the product we would like to recommend.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Next, I'd like to introduce our Director for Pre-K through 5 Reading and Social Studies, Regina Lieberg, who will be introducing the team who will be discussing benchmark literacy tonight. That's our balanced literacy program that we're implementing first and foremost for K through 5.
Thank you, Assistant Superintendent Smith. Good evening, board members, senior leadership, community members, and teachers. Tonight, approval will be sought for the adoption of a new K-5 literacy program and the purchase of the corresponding materials, resources, and support. We would like to purchase and implement new literacy resources from Benchmark Education, specifically a program entitled Benchmark Literacy for grades K through 5. We're looking to implement it in grades K1 during next school year, and grades 2 through 5 the following school year, 2013 and 2014. We're staggering the implementation for a few reasons. Our current professional development can focus on those specific grade levels to give more attention while it's being implemented to those grade levels. The technology upgrades that will be effective next year will be in alignment with what we need for Benchmark. And we would like to begin our primary students' education and academic career with rigorous expectations that we believe this program has. Why now? With the approval of all-day kindergarten, we started looking at the cost of purchasing materials for those additional sections of kindergarten. The cost of ordering additional materials, such as the ones we currently have, which is the Treasures reading series, would cost approximately $100,000 to about $150,000. Also, we looked at our current data outcomes, which Kelly will share with us briefly, the Common Core expectations, the college and career readiness standards, and then the technology demands that our students are faced with. So we looked at all of those different things and determined that we needed to look at different programs to determine what would meet our students' needs. Kelly will go ahead and share what our current data outcomes look like.
What you see before you are the winter reading map scores, and you'll see them designated in 3 different tiers, tier 1, 2, and 3. These 3 tiers are in alignment to the 3 tiers utilized at the middle school level, so we're maintaining that continuity between grades K through 8 in our decision-making process. What you see here, most importantly, that I would like to highlight is where tier 1 is. Tier 1 represents 50th to the 99th percentile, so students who scored in that percentile on their winter map assessment. Only about 52% of our students scored in that tier. We're looking at the college and career readiness benchmark being at the 65th percentile and above, and 36% of our students scored in that tier. What we would like to see in tier 1 is 80% of our students performing at that benchmark of college and career readiness within their respective grade level. So you can see that discrepancy in that area we need to improve.
So what percentage of our students are not college and career ready right now?
So right now, based on the winter map assessment in K5, it would be 100 minus 36, would about 74%, if I can do that correctly.
64?
64%, yes.
So over half of our students are currently
Correct.
not college and career ready.
Correct.
And like Kelly mentioned, this is what we want to see. We want to see at least 80%. Obviously, we want to see 100% of our students college and career ready. But what the green would tell us is the percentage of students responding to a core curriculum. And currently it's about, what was it? 36% are responding to the core curriculum and then we need to put interventions in place. So after looking at the data, determining that to replace our current materials would cost close to $150,000, we began to research what the Common Core requires in terms of materials. What we found lacking in our current materials were the following. I won't read through all of them, but basically what it says is that the current materials that we're using, the Treasures series, do not meet the publisher's criteria for Common Core state standards implementation. Examples include the fact that fluency is not a particular focus, materials do not necessarily develop academic vocabulary, prevalent and complex texts. The materials offer a scope and sequence that is too expansive. There's a lot in the textbook for our teachers to try to cover. And it offers a curriculum basically that's a mile wide and an inch deep. The texts that are part of this current series do not align with the current text complexity requirements as called for in the Common Core. And the materials do not offer students sufficient exposure to multimedia and technology.
Excuse me. So these materials, you just went through a buffet of items that just obviously don't meet our core assessments, correct?
Our core curricular materials.
So wouldn't that make Vice President Red-Gugis your statement adequate and correct?
We want to ask her to.
Yes, you guys are not going to go there. Let her finish her presentation.
Excuse me.
I
want to ask her to do that, but I think it's obvious that our current curriculum
It's
is
about the
substandard.
kids. It's not about us.
Member
defending
Campbell,
them.
I think it's clear that our current curriculum is that. I will keep our staff from the political fray,
but it's not
I would interpret that as, our curriculum is bad for kids, is bad for teachers.
And it's not our teachers' fault. I mean, obviously that they're just following guides. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So what we did was basically put together a team of 14 teachers, a couple administrators, and reviewed what we need to do next in terms of getting materials in the hands of teachers that will help them be successful in helping students be college and career ready and meet the Common Core state standards beginning in kindergarten. So we looked at different factors. Criteria was established to determine what programs we would review. 2 programs quickly rose to the top. Those were Good Habits, Great Readers, and Benchmark Literacy. Good Habits, Great Readers met some of the requirements. We've had pretty high expectations. They met some of the requirements. Benchmark Literacy met all of the requirements as outlined in the publisher's criteria and our criteria. The cost difference is there, you can see. Good Habits, Great Readers cost $1.1 million, almost $1.2 million. And the cost of Benchmark Literacy costs $850,000, plus the bilingual phonics piece for K2 sections, which is still under review currently. We're proposing the approval of Benchmark Literacy and the implementation of Benchmark Literacy because it meets the requirements for meeting Common Core state standards in English language arts. The framework and components of Benchmark Literacy will strengthen college and career readiness standards in students. Formative and summative assessment measures are embedded throughout the program and of our consistently high quality. And finally, technology is infused throughout the program, as all texts are available on interactive whiteboards and for use at home. And they're also available on e-readers, iPads, etc., as well as all of the teacher's manuals, lesson planning, and a variety of other technology. Our committee members are as follows. I'd like to thank them for their dedication in choosing to bring to you Benchmark Literacy.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, what was the cost again?
$850,000. We began negotiations with them at, I think it was 2 something.
I thought it was much higher. You did a good job bringing that down. Thank you. Any further questions on this? Seeing none. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item yours too?
Okay, yes, the next item is mine as well. This is on, thank you. Thank you, team. On behalf of Rachel Kinder, Assistant Superintendent for 6 through 12, I'd like to bring to the board an information report. I'm just taking an extract from the information report for MAP 9 through 10. We are asking for approval at next board meeting, May 29, for MAP grades 9 through 10 measures of academic progress. Extending measure of academic progress into grades 9 and 10 is a natural continuation of our district's focus on college and career readiness. Currently, our alignment with college and career readiness is based on a linking study between MAP and Explore, Plan, and PSAE assessments. Extending MAP into grades 9 and 10 will allow us to continually monitor a student's path towards college and career readiness using one assessment model. Additionally, this vertical articulation will take place between the middle and high schools and will allow for greater continuity in student learning. Also, I'd like to add that we are looking at this assessment. Again, the use of the MAP assessment in 11th and 12th grade is extended and focused on students who are academically at risk. So again, the Descartes continuum, this is an instructional resource that has less of an ability to guide instructional practices beyond 10th grade, but again, in grades 11 and 12, we can use this assessment for students who are academically at risk. So I'm just bringing this for the board's consideration for approval at the May 29th meeting.
Thank you. Any questions for Assistant Superintendent Smith at this time? All right. Internet safety.
Yes, Information Report 14.4. It's the first reading of policy access to electronic networks, 6:235. Policy change being recommended is in order to comply with the federal government's Children's Internet Protection Act, or SIPA. Beginning in July of 2012, schools' internet safety policies must provide for educating minors about appropriate online behavior, including interacting with other individuals on social networking websites and in chat rooms, and cyberbullying awareness and response. This recommended change would add the additional language as noted in the policy there attached, and so we do present it for first reading and ask if you have any questions.
Any questions? Thank you. Grading scale, Dr. Mitchell.
Yes, Vice President Gugis. We are bringing the grading scale to the Board of Education as an information item tonight, subject to approval on the 29th, if you deem appropriate. We would like to move our grading scale to the more prevailing standard of a 60, 70, 80, 90 grading scale, as opposed to our current grading scale, which is slightly higher. The most consistent reason for advocating the change is to level our playing field for our students with the prevailing standards around the state and pretty much around the country, as well as with universities. We are aligning it with surrounding districts, and examples of our misalignment that could negatively impact our students, particularly at the high school level, are with our AP courses as one example. Currently in VVSD, a 91% in an AP course is a B, yet in other districts a 90% in an AP course is an A. The standards for AP courses are consistent throughout the country. Therefore, a student in VVSD could have a higher percentage grade, yet a lower letter grade in an AP course, subsequently impacting their capacity to compete for college entrance. Another issue is our final exams. The same applies for final exam scores and grades. With all but 2 states moving to the Common Core, theoretically there should be a consistent expectation as it applies to the curriculum across the country. Therefore, by having different grading scales in Valley View School District in relation to most school districts across the country, again, our kids could be at a disadvantage with the perception that their content absorption is less than those in other districts as a result of our grading scale being significantly higher. Standardized tests, whether using the SAT, ACT, PSAE, or the soon-to-be-implemented PARCC assessment, when an equal score is had, the students with the higher GPA is given further consideration in college. Moving the grading scale gives our students a more level playing field in that area as well. And finally, there are further implications when considering this change. Incorporating a plus-minus system should be considered, given that there is a significant difference in mastery between a student who has mastered 90% of the content and a student who has mastered 97 to 99% of the content. It's not fair for both students to receive equal quality points when factoring the GPA, or should the student with a 90 receive a letter grade of an A-, etc. Should an 89% be a B+, with an 80% being a B-? I appreciate your input in this matter, and we will bring this to you for action on the 29th.
Questions? Dr. Mitchum, just to reiterate, this in no way changes anything to do with the rigor in the classroom or the material presented. There is no watering down by this change.
Absolutely not. I think it's a fallacy to compare the rigor with the grading scale. Our rigor is much higher than it has been in the past. Subsequently, I think our grading scale should be in line with other districts, particularly as a result of our rigor being high. To get a 90% in the future curriculum, I think would be a much more rigorous reflection of a student's grade than the 93% in our current curriculum.
Thank you.
Is there a reason why we don't have an A+ in the letter grade?
We contemplated that. It's something that can be considered. We polled the district, and we had about 80% of our staff who were in agreement with the current grading scale, although that was a question that was asked in terms of if we have a B+, why can't there be an A+? It would just be a matter of slightly adjusting the scale, but that's something that could be considered if it meets with the board's approval.
Okay. Any other questions? Legal services.
No report this evening. Thank you.
Association and Federation reports. AFT. Valley View Council. Valley View Office Personnel Council. Any old business? Any new business? Questions from the public on any action taken by the board at this meeting? Any questions from the public? Announcements by the board?
I actually would like to congratulate Beverly Scoff Elementary School. A couple of weeks ago, I went with my daughter to a family reading night. I believe that's what it was called, and we had a local writer author read a book about proper manners and good hygiene, which was all great. But the big piece that I really enjoyed was seeing the amount of families out there. The parent involvement at this school is phenomenal. I don't know, I mean, and we weren't giving any food for free or any drinks for free, but I just thought it was great and I want to just recognize Principal Noon and her entire staff for putting that together and having just an outstanding outcome, and then just wanted to make sure that we recognize them for that. So.
I too attended RC Hill, also in Romeoville, and my daughter had a science project in the science, I'll call it a science fair, but it was focused on sustainable energy at RC Hill. Great turnout. There was also a multicultural food fest there recently. And the funny story, there was all types of, different types of food there represented. There was some Mexican food, there was some Polish food. There was all different types that my daughter could have tried, and she opted for the pizza. But it was a good time, and I do appreciate the hard work and the volunteers. Tons of teachers from RC Hill volunteered to see that event as a success. So thank you, RC Hill. Any announcements by the administration?
Yes, just one. Member Gugis, I listened to your comments as well as Member Venegas's comments and Member Campbell's comments to the public. And I just wanted to indicate that the changes that are afoot in Valley View School District are those of this senior leadership team and our administration. And I want to also indicate that you will never, ever hear me reference our teachers as a reason for why we have some students who are performing well and some students who are not. I have consistently indicated that we have been dealt a bad hand. And I believe that we've been dealt a bad hand. And I will reiterate again that as a result of our results being tenuous at best, particularly with our at-risk students, you know, one of two things has to be true. Either our students truly do have deficits that aren't remediable, or we're just operating in a bad system. And I believe we're operating in a bad system. And so I want to reiterate that even though there were people who had concern with the way in which Member Gugis or Member Venegas relayed that message, we can no longer systemically, and this is not a teacher issue, but we can no longer systemically accept credit for our students who are high performing while at the same time not accepting responsibility for our students who are low performing. We cannot have it both ways. If we're going to accept credit for our highest performing students, which rightfully we should in many cases, we also need to accept responsibility for our lowest performing students. Only when we're willing to accept that level of responsibility will things change. So what we are asking is unprecedented. I get that. We have inundated you with information, but we are in a triage mode right now. We need to dramatically change the way in which we conduct business, and we need to do it now. If in fact you believe that we are operating in a system that doesn't allow for teachers to maximize their effort. Again, I've been in the classrooms the better part of the first semester and not as much the second semester, and I unequivocally will indicate and say that what the effort I see in the classrooms is tremendous. But again, as I referenced in the letter I sent to the district, if we're riding a mule, running a horse race, it doesn't matter how good the jockey is. What we're trying to do is provide you with a horse race to run a horse race. And that sometimes will cause discomfort and trepidation within the teaching ranks, the administrative ranks, and the community. But I'm not in this for affirmation, nor is anybody else sitting up here. We're in this to support what serves the best interest of our children. And again, when that runs afoul of what serves the best interest of adults, we will defer to the kids at every juncture. So I appreciate the effort of the teachers in this district. I am convinced that if the leadership team provides you with the necessary tools, coupled with your effort in the classroom, we will be a breakthrough district in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mitchell. I would say I couldn't put it better myself, but obviously I can't put it better than you just put it. Any announcements by the public?
Excuse me, Vice President Gugis,
Yes.
I wanted to also congratulate the appointment of the Summer Learning Experience staff this evening.
Yes.
We have several teachers, nurses, principals, and a director that have been approved by the board this evening, so I just want to take time to acknowledge them. And I do know that some of our staff are here tonight, including our new Summer Learning Experience Director, Jason Paskovich. So just wanted to say that.
Finally, may I just personally thank and congratulate Mr. Michael White for accepting the position of principal at Bolingbrook High School. I sincerely hope you know what you're getting into. And God bless your wife as well, because you'll probably be AWOL for a part of it, which I'm sure she understands. But again, I thank you for accepting this position. I look forward to your leadership at Bolingbrook High School.
Really excited about summer learning. Even though I think the deadline's passed, I'm sure they'll fit you in if you call up to enrollment. You guys that are here and a part of that, you're part of our inaugural summer enrollment piece, and it's going to be such a huge piece on that graph. If you're not shaken by that graph, that only 35% of our kids are college and career ready, then I don't know what'll shake you. So summer learning experience is going to be one piece of trying to get that number to 80% and eventually to 100. So really excited about summer learning. Motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
Voice vote, please. Everybody say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. This meeting is adjourned.
Or maybe the Fifth Third Bank, at last, the glorious man cave of greatness comes to fruition. Equity Flex Line. Well, we're working on it. In the meantime, visit us at 53.com and learn more about how a low APR could make borrowing better for you. Fifth Third Bank, the curious bank.